Dumelang, hello, and welcome to the Domestic Workers Chronicles, the channel where we talk everything domestic workers, abo auntie, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am your host, Lindy Weshi Bambo, the founder of Made for You, MAID, the number 4, the letter U. You can visit our website, www.madeforyou.co.za, to see our services and to see what we're doing. I'm a former domestic worker, turned entrepreneur, turned this, turned that, turned motivational speaker, turned inspirational speaker, turned business coach, turned franchisor, everything in one. Kilindiwe, ki Kalashnikova, ki Mafavuga. She is the one who started it all. Guys, we are continuing on the topic, yeah, exploitation and abuse amongst this sector, yeah, domestic work. In my previous episode, the employers are sometimes abused by domestic workers. So the domestic worker, how they abuse the employers, they play on their guilt, right? Employer udutsi mola and an employer feels yo na ke hola 50,000 and ke fa anti 4,000. So already employer ufila mara na self I'm complaining about surviving ka 50K, and how about my domestic worker? So already naturally there's that guilt. But employer, you must remember her CEO ya how ohola 1.5 million and I guilty ka horo wena okra 50,000. Kira fela, let's just balance this thing proper. So stop feeling guilty. The most important thing is that you need to appreciate what you're doing for this woman, because what you have done is you have created a job opportunity for a woman who has children, who has families, who otherwise would have been unemployed. You opened your house to that woman, you opened your purse to that woman, you are paying that person on time. Most of our domestics share our lunch, our food, our space, our rooms, our TVs and everything. So therefore, instead of looking at it from the other side, rather flip it and say, I am doing something amazing. Because I always say to domestic workers when we do training that an employer of a domestic worker can easily take their children to crèche. They've got that option, to a daycare center if they have small kids, and decide to take that room or that cottage where you are staying and rent it out and make money out of it. But they chose to not do that. So as much as you might be taking home 5,000 or 4,000, actually your CTC in accounting terms, actually your CTC is 15,000 or 20,000. Because if you can evaluate the value of the room you are staying in and the catering, right, and the electricity you consume during the day, it's actually, a lot. So therefore, if there's anything, just show gratitude to the employer. And that does not say or doesn't suggest that employer must now be abusive towards the domestic worker and say, yeah, you are staying in my house, you're eating my food and things like that, right? So I've also had a lot of questions from employers that will say, Lindiwe, are we allowed to put a value to the room that auntie is staying and the value towards the catering, the food that we are providing for her? And the answer is yes, you are allowed. There is a formula we use to make sure that auntie can see that as much as in your bank you get 4,000 or 5,000, whatever the salary is, this is your CTC. So if you need help with that, let us know. So let's get into the topic. I like to stay on other topics there and so let's talk about exploitation and abuse within the domestic worker sector, and now just zooming into the employers that are abusing domestic workers, right? Now, the first thing we're going to talk about, let's start with the first thing that everybody likes and we work for that, which is money, right? You have employers that are paying below the minimum wage, right? So the minimum wage is set, and it's a law and it's a legislature, and it's documented to say a person who works so many hours must earn so much. A person who works so many days must earn so much, right? The person who works for so many hours and is deemed a permanent employee, they must be registered for UIF. Even if you are paying good money, but the person is not registered for UIF, you're not complying, you are exploiting. If the person is not on COIDA, injury on duty, you are exploiting, because if she gets injured, you know who's going to be liable, right? You're going to have issues to say, I'm going to give you 1,000 and now I'm going to be short and whatnot. But if she's on COIDA and she gets injured on duty, she's covered, right? So look at the advantages of making sure that you are compliant in terms of UIF and especially COIDA. Now, the minimum wage also, I need to talk about that. I mean, we work for money. Money is what provides for us, and money is energy, girls, guys. But money is energy. Give it out, receive it. Those guys young, but that's another topic for another day. It's a spiritual thing. So what I'm saying is that there are documented and legislated minimum wages. But now let's be sensitive towards this. Now you can have my auntie who works in my house in Waterfall Estate, and my house is a 15-bedroom house. It's a 3-story house. And it has a pool, and it has this, and it has outside rooms, and so forth. And the minimum wage is stipulated, say, for example, at 3.5. Is it fair for me to give auntie 3.5 because the minimum wage says is 3.5 because she works within certain hours? Definitely not. That is abuse, that is exploitation. Because what needs to happen is you need to be fair and say, yes, this is the minimum wage. However, this is the job spec. This is what she's expected to do. This is how big the house is. This is the number of people, occupants in the house, 7, 8 people that she needs to wash their laundry. This is the dog, the money, the pets, the food, the cooking, the baking, the taking care of the children. So we need to be fair as employers to say, yes, this is the set minimum wage. And this set minimum wage, let me be honest with you, and I tell employers this, and sometimes they don't like me for saying this. So I'll say, yes, that is the set minimum wage for someone who's cleaning a bachelor flat. That is the minimum wage that is set. Please be fair and look at your house and equate that to the salary, right? So exploitation and abuse exists mainly when it comes to monetary issues, because people pay below the minimum wage or pay the minimum wage, but the work is just a lot. The workload is a lot. It doesn't justify the salary. And then there is issues of sometimes domestic workers working overtime, and they are not being compensated for that overtime, because our assumption is that, well, she's a stay-in helper, so therefore, I mean, if I want her to work from 9 o'clock or to 12 o'clock midnight, and I'm hosting my church people, it's a home sale, or ke sangoma ke bina malopo, or ke bina manchomana, she needs to be washing the dishes. I am not taking into account that that is overtime, and that overtime needs to be paid, right? So that is exploitation, that is abuse. Right? And when she raises this, I feel like, oh, now you feel like I can fire you. No, she's well within her rights to raise that. No, that's overtime work. That is not part of my normal day-to-day duties, right? And I mean, there is so much we can talk about in terms of monetary issues. Also, the issue of late payment is an abuse. Because I don't know why as employers we tend to think that all the debit orders must go off, everything must go off, and my children's school fees and my grocery money, and auntie must be the one who gets paid late. I mean, I think auntie must be prioritized. I'm sitting here shooting this video because Mambe Ute Nkontru, and I know my kids are well taken care of. And tomorrow I am flying to Cape Town for 2 weeks, and I'm so comfortable flying because Mambe Ute Nkontru is taking care of the kids. But when it comes to payment, she is the last one to be paid, which is unfair, and that is abuse, and that is exploitation, right? So the issue of monetary, let's agree at inception when we start the relationship with our domestics, how am I going to pay you, EFT, bank, cash? I discourage cash, because Andy can go to CMA and say, I've worked for 2 years, I've never been paid. You don't have proof of that envelope. So I would say EFT or eWallet, any type of mode that you can pay that can be recorded, and there can be a record. There can be something to show that you were paying auntie. And I would encourage you to register them for UIF and COIDA. I mean, UIF get 2%. If auntie earns 3,000 is what? 60 Rand. COIDA is like 463 to register, and it's about 10, 15 Rand a month. So, and you look at domestic worker medical aid, it's about 300. You look at their provident fund, it's below 500. So these things are available. DM us, call us, send us your questions. Let's send you the links and the information about how you can do this and do it right to avoid exploitation and abuse of domestic workers. Now, another form of abuse and exploitation within this sector is treatment. You guys, but treat the maid like better than the maid. There are madams out there that have the insurance for their pets. I don't know if it's insurance or it's a medical aid. They have it for their pets, but they've had Auntie Maria for 7 years, and Auntie Maria does not even have a medical aid, nor registered for UIF, right? So please, let's be sensitive towards those things. And more than anything, when you talk treatment, they treat their maids like this person is not human. I don't know how to put it in a way that it can be publicized. I almost used vulgar words. They treat them so bad. It's like that person is beneath me as a person. This person, because Madia is not red, so she doesn't carry red blood. Her blood is gray. Therefore, I'm going to wake her to the bone. I'm going to speak to her the way I want. I'm going to make sure she feels so little. She feels kuri. Like, and you don't understand why. But guys, now I've been in this space for such a long time that when I had those issues and we were able to sit down on a round table and address them, I know some people will say whatnot, but I'm going to be honest. I would pick up insecurities from the madam, right? Because as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old, 25-year-old domestic worker from a poor family, you expect me to have a low self-esteem, to not have confidence. And when I come with my torn shoes, but I have confidence, and you are earning 100,000 and you have a low self-esteem, I intimidate you. And you hate me because you don't understand why am I so confident whilst I have nothing, and yet you have so much, and yet you haven't found yourself in your own skin, in your own body, in your own skull. But I did. So in instances where I got an opportunity to sit where an auntie is saying, no, she can't talk to me this way, she's doing this, she's making me watch dogs poo, she's making me clean the pool and the garden, and she doesn't want to pay me, and when I talk to her, this is how she talks back. And what made them be careful? Domestics record these things on their phones. So we are not talking nje, rumor. We have files and recordings to prove. So they will say, but Lindy, she talks to me this way, and we're like, ah, no. Let's have a round table and have a discussion. That's what I will pick up. I'll pick up that madam is insecure, and madam has to deal with something within herself, either childhood trauma, either unhappiness, either a cheating boyfriend, cheating partner, you know, trying to impress people. There is something within the spirit and the soul that is not content. And therefore, this one is a cleaner, and therefore she can laugh and she can. And another thing, let me tell you something about those kind of situations. We would encounter situations where auntie is working for this madam who's earning a lot of money and driving a Lamborghini, and this madam is treating auntie so bad, auntie who's coming from deep slot in a shack. And auntie doesn't understand why, right? Some of us are spirit people, so we can pick up these things when we are listening. And, you know, I pick up that the mentality we have as people is that what makes me happy is material things. So visitors will come to that house, and you know what visitors will do? Visitors will gravitate towards my auntie instead of me, the madam in the Lamborghini, and therefore I have a problem. So I'm not saying in all instances it's like that. Some of us are just brought up very badly. We don't know the difference between respect, humanity, ubuntu, and disrespect. Some of us we just need to sort ourselves out. So you do get people that are quite intimidated, auntie, because. And on that note, you get people that are saying, Lindy, I want an auntie, but she must not be pretty looking. I don't know what is pretty, what is ugly. I'm a child of the spirit. When I look at a human being, I see them, I don't see their looks. So it becomes so difficult when it comes to those situations. But we have had a number of requests where employer says, I don't want someone who looks pretty. Right? So if you don't want someone who's looking pretty in your house, are you scared that your husband utomoferia? If then your husband utomoferia, then you married a pervert, you married a cheater. It's not the fault of the auntie. Right? Don't get an auntie. Nakilo wena madam, I was gonna get a man, a Malawian man with 6 packs. Linna, kibele eye candy, general. You understand what I'm saying? So you know who you're married to, and you love this man, you don't want to leave, and now utoferia auntie. So therefore, auntie must be treated better. At the end of the day, right? So you know who you married again. So therefore, don't hire a female auntie. Get a male buckler with 6-pack who looks like, I don't know, these models these days, right? With 6-pack, and you must tell that buckler to take off their shirts every time they work. They must show their 6-packs. Then we rebalance this thing. You understand? So treatment, guys, is very important. And the job spec also I'm emphasizing is very important. You're not going to hire auntie and say you're going to clean the house and do this and do this. A month later, she needs to clean dog poo, she needs to clean the pool, then she needs to take care of your mother who was not staying there. All of a sudden, she reappears, I don't know from where, and then your father and this and that and that. But when you initially agreed, you were not honest up front to say this is. And when auntie gives you an attitude towards cleaning the pool or cleaning dog's poo, you are now saying, oh, this auntie unale attitude, unale issue, but you are the one who did not communicate honestly when it started, right? So that becomes important, that when we start the relationship, we are open about the job spec, including the dog poo and things. And another thing in terms of treatment we need to be sensitive about is culture. I speak of culture in the context of, there are some African cultures, the women are not allowed to touch dog's poo or touch an animal or anything like that, right? So there are some cultures that are quite strict, that a woman is not allowed, it's a curse, I don't know what they call it, but they perceive it as a curse. Mosadi is going to clean dog poo. You are not allowed because of your culture. You are brought up like that. So those cultural differences and diversity, we need also to look at them and have an open communication about them, to say naka culture ya rona. And I get bo anti ba thome ba tsamaye ba botse bo ntwele bo medeme hore a naka culture rona ba re ke ska hlatswa dibiana, right? Ke ska hlatswa dibiana, ke ska etsang, ke ska etsang. I'm just saying, and I know for a fact that there are some cultures that you're not allowed as a woman to touch dog poo or to wash a dog or a cat or any kind of animal. So as madam, please just ask your domestic worker, have a conversation with them, and at inception just let them know what they are there to do, so that they can immediately tell you, I'm not allowed to do it. As desperate as I am for a job, I'm not allowed to do that in my culture. So then you part ways from day one, right? And the exploitation and abuse of domestic workers, we're also talking about children. You know, there's children that abuse domestic workers. They will speak badly to auntie, they will do this and they'll do that. But let's be honest, guys. I know personally my daughter did this. My daughter did not treat auntie bad. That's not what I'm saying. What she did is that we had a family thing with my husband's family, and my husband kept on buying cold drinks. You know, when you know that there's an unveiling at the end of the year. So my husband kept on buying cold drinks, 2 liters when they're on special, and my in-laws will come collect them every month. And every time they come, I mean, he will tell them, oh, there's 16 cold drinks. And every time they will come, maybe they will find 14 or 12 cold drinks, and they will complain, they'll complain. And one day I was sitting with a friend of mine, Medeni. I said to her, you know, my in-laws, they come here to collect this cold drink, and they always complain if 1 is missing or 2 is missing, disregarding that actually I'm the one who's funding for the cold drinks. You know, I really don't like this. Kanti my daughter, I mean, she was young, she's listening. And when my in-laws came and they started with the cold drink drama, politics, my daughter said, please, you must stop coming here, Coco, because now when you come here, you stress my mother out. My mother says when you come here to collect the cold drink, you always complain when there's 2 or 1 missing. So what I'm trying to get at, the fact that I'm trying to get across is that children will behave in a manner that is ordained by their parents, either through what the parents have said or through the actions of the parents. So I don't want to put the children under the bus right now. I would like to say, obviously, I would say to my child, I'm quite strict when it comes to children. So my children, they know after they bath, they clean the bathtub, even though there's 2 aunties in my house. They know after they eat, they take the dishes to the thing, because sinking, right? So there are parents that feel like you must leave it there, which I understand is how you choose to do it. But do not do it in a context of saying, just leave it there, spill it, servant will come collect it. You know, those kind of words. And they mess up that relationship, and it becomes abusive, because one day auntie is going to say, how, why don't you put it back there? How? You were hired here to do that, right? To clean after me. And as much as that is the case, and you are privileged enough to afford to have an auntie, and we applaud you for that, there is a huge element of respect that is needed. There is a huge element of fair treatment that is required in this space. So as employers of domestic workers, I'd like to say, please look at the issue of money and late payment. Try to prioritize and do a how. And at inception, talk about how much is going to be paid on which day, and possibilities of an increase, and increase after how long. A possibility of bonus based on what type of performance and behavior. So issues of money, I mean, we can sort them out when we start the relationship, just to make sure everything is clear. Secondly, the issue of treatment. Sometimes put yourself in the shoe of this domestic worker and say, if I was treated this way, or a child spoke to me like this, would I appreciate that, right? So it's an issue of communication, it's an issue of respect, it's an issue of being upfront from the beginning, so that we sort of build a healthy, strong relationship with the auntie. Made for you objective is to make sure that when we employ somebody, we employ someone to work for you full time for the longest time. Thank you so much for joining. There's a flea that's bothering me. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Subscribe, like our channel. Send us questions, send us topics you want us to talk about. If you have a story to tell, to share, please share. Let's invite you. If you are open to it, let's have a discussion. Let's find solutions. Thank you.